Kirk Frost never saw it coming. One minute, he was moving through the crowd, and the next, chaos erupted. Fans screamed, cameras flashed, and suddenly, a figure lunged at him, knocking him off balance. The atmosphere shifted from excitement to pure panic as security rushed in, but the damage had already been done. What happened in those few seconds left everyone stunned. Was it a random act of violence or something more personal? And why now, just as rumors about Kirk leaving love and hip-hop were spreading? The footage quickly made its way online, sending fans into a frenzy. Some speculate it was an angry fan seeking revenge, while others believe it was a carefully orchestrated act of retaliation tied to behind-the-scenes drama. But what's the real story? Stay tuned, because what's about to be revealed will change everything. Kirk Frost had always been accustomed to drama. After all, he'd built his career on it. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened that night. It was supposed to be just another public appearance, a typical night out. He'd been laying low ever since rumors about his departure from love and hip-hop started circulating. The gossip was everywhere. Fans were talking, and everyone wanted to know the truth. Yet, Kirk stayed silent, letting the speculation take over. In hindsight, maybe that silence only fueled the fire. What happened next was unlike anything he'd ever faced before. The event was packed with industry insiders, influencers, and die-hard love and hip-hop fans. Kirk moved through the crowd, maintaining his usual cool demeanor. His name still held weight, and despite the controversies, he had his loyal supporters. But something felt off. There was tension in the air. Rashida had warned him earlier to be careful, telling him that people were upset. "Your whole V1 situation got them feeling some type of way," she had said. He'd brushed it off, thinking she was just being dramatic. But looking back, maybe he should have listened. The first sign of trouble came when Kirk noticed a group of fans watching him too closely. At first, he thought little of it. He was used to people staring, whispering, and pointing. It came with the territory. But this time, there was something different. These fans weren't just looking at him, they were angry. He could see the frustration on their faces. One man in his late 20s caught Kirk's attention. There was a look in his eyes that Kirk didn't like. Something was brewing. At that moment, Kirk's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "You think you can just walk away from this?" Kirk frowned, scanning the crowd, trying to figure out who might have sent the message. His gut told him this wasn't just some internet troll. This was real. His heart raced, but he pushed the feeling down. It was a public event. Nothing could go wrong here, could it? Right then, it all changed in an instant. One moment, Kirk was smiling, shaking hands, acting like nothing was wrong. The picture of a composed reality star. The next, chaos erupted. A man from the crowd suddenly pushed past security, breaking through without any warning, no threats, no shouts, just a sudden, forceful motion. A fist swung, cutting through the air, and before Kirk could react, pain exploded across his face. The impact knocked him backward, sending gasps through the crowd. Screams filled the air as security rushed in, but the attacker wasn't finished. He lunged again, trying to grab Kirk, shouting something lost in the noise. Cameras flashed, phones were already up, capturing everything. Within minutes, the footage would be everywhere. Kirk barely had time to register what had just happened before security finally restrained the man, pinning him to the ground as he thrashed. Then, his voice rang out, cutting through the commotion. "You ruined everything. You lied." His words sent chills through the onlookers. This wasn't just a random attack. This was personal. Blood dripped from the corner of Kirk's mouth as his mind raced. Who was this guy? What did he mean by ruined everything? Before Kirk could even steady himself, the police had arrived, forcing their way through the crowd. The attacker was still yelling as officers dragged him away. "Tell the truth, Kirk. You know what he did." Rashida was beside him in an instant, her face full of concern. "Kirk, are you okay?" Her voice was urgent, but he barely registered it. His heart was still hammering, his ears ringing from the sudden attack. He wiped his lip, wincing at the sting. It had all happened so fast, too fast. Then, realization hit him. The cameras were still rolling. The internet was already exploding with theories. This wasn't just an assault, it was a message. But from who, and why now? Police started questioning witnesses while the attackers' shouts grew more desperate as they shoved him into a squad car. "You can't hide forever," his voice echoed in Kirk's mind. He exchanged a look with Rashida. They both knew. This wasn't over. If anything, it was only the beginning. Later that night, Kirk sat in his car, staring at his phone. The video was everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, gossip blogs. Millions of views were piling up. But that wasn't what made his stomach twist. It was the messages flooding his inbox, dozens of DMs from burner accounts. "This is just the beginning. You think we forgot? Watch your back." A chill ran through him. Kirk had been in the industry long enough to know the difference between online noise and a real threat. And this? This was different. Someone wanted to send a message, and they had used a public attack to make their point. Then, another notification. But this time, it wasn't from a burner account. It was from someone Kirk hadn't heard from in years. An old friend. "They're coming for you. You need to leave town now." His grip on the phone tightened as he read the message again. His pulse pounded in his ears. What had he gotten himself into? This wasn't just some random troll. It was someone who knew something, someone close enough to the situation to send a warning. But what situation? Kirk had plenty of enemies in the industry, sure, but this felt different. This wasn't a petty business feud or a deal gone wrong. This was personal. Rashida's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. She was gripping the steering wheel, staring at him with a mixture of anger and concern. "Kirk, we need to talk. Now," she said, her tone sharp. She had been quiet since the attack, but it was obvious she was holding something back. Something important. He sighed, locking his phone and glancing at her. "Go ahead," he muttered, rubbing his jaw where the punch had landed. "Who was that man?" she asked, her voice firm. "He knew you, Kirk. He wasn't just some random fan. What the hell is going on?" Kirk exhaled slowly, staring out the window. He wanted to brush it off, act like it was nothing, but deep down, he knew better. Rashida knew better too. She'd been by his side for too long to let things slide. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice low. "But I've got a bad feeling about this," Rashida scoffed, shaking her head. "A bad feeling? Kirk, you just got attacked in front of the whole world. This isn't just a bad feeling, this is serious. And now you're getting messages telling you to leave town. Who sent that?" Kirk hesitated, then turned his phone around to show her the message. The moment she saw the name, her eyes widened. "Wait, you're still in contact with him?" she asked, disbelief in her voice. Kirk shook his head. "No, I haven't spoken to him in years. This came out of nowhere." Rashida took a sharp breath, tightening her grip on the wheel. "Kirk, you need to start talking, because I'm telling you right now, I don't like where this is headed." Kirk leaned back in his seat, rubbing his face with both hands. He wasn't sure where to begin, but one thing was clear: this wasn't over. The next morning, Kirk woke to chaos. His phone had been buzzing nonstop, and now the headlines were everywhere. Kirk Frost attacked by angry fan, ex-love and hip-hop. Star targeted in shocking attack. Kirk Frost's attack, the real reason behind it? His stomach twisted as he scrolled through the articles. Everyone had theories, but no one had any real answers. The police had said nothing about the attacker's identity, and no official statement had been issued. But the internet had already run wild with speculation. Some claimed the attack was an act of revenge from someone Kirk had crossed in the past. Others suggested it was a publicity stunt, a way for him to stay in the headlines amid rumors of his firing. Then there were the darker theories, the ones that hit too close to home. People whispered that the attack was a warning, that Kirk had gotten involved in something much deeper and more dangerous than anyone realized. Kirk's breath caught in his throat as he read the comments. How were people already piecing things together? How were they getting so close to the truth? Before he could think too much about it, his phone rang. The number was unknown. His heart skipped a beat. He almost didn't pick up the phone, but something inside him urged him to. "Hello?" His voice was hoarse. There was a long silence before a deep, calm voice filled the line. Too calm. You should have listened, the voice said. Kirk's breath caught in his throat. Who is this? The voice didn't answer his question. You think you can just walk away and there won't be consequences? A chill ran down Kirk's spine. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. A slow, sinister chuckle followed. Oh, you will soon enough. Then, the call ended. Kirk stared at his phone, his hands trembling. This was far worse than he had imagined. It wasn't just some angry fan. This was bigger, tied to his past. Something was catching up to him, and the scariest part was he had no idea who was behind it. Later that afternoon, Kirk and Rashida met with the police. They had called him in, not as a suspect, but as a victim. They wanted to know if he recognized the man who attacked him, if he had any enemies, or if he had received any threats. Kirk kept his answers vague. He wasn't ready to reveal everything, not yet. But there was something in the way the officers looked at him that made him uneasy. It felt like they knew more than they were letting on. Mr. Frost, one of the detectives, finally said, flipping through a folder of papers. Your attacker's name is Jason Carter. Does that name mean anything to you? Kirk's blood ran cold. Jason Carter. He hadn't heard that name in years. Rashida shot him a concerned glance. Kirk, she whispered, sensing his reaction. But Kirk couldn't respond. His mind was already racing, connecting the dots.